So I'm picking persimmons, which is a daily routine, and come out here in the morning, go to each tree. There's 16 trees plus the big one, but I've been picking a few off the big one, but mainly I'm picking off the smaller trees. We've had some breakage of limbs because they've been bogged down with persimmons, and they just can't handle it because they're not mature enough. So we're trying to relieve these small of their persimmons. They have to be ripe enough to slice. You don't want a lot of green on them. They have to be orange, but you want them solid. You dry persimmons when they're solid. When they soften up, they're good for cooking or eating, but they're not really great for drying, for slicing and drying. So you slice them actually when they're hard. These would be too green for today. I don't know when they're gonna ripen up, but they're a ways away. So I just make my way around each tree, pick the ones that I think will work today, and they don't have to be totally orange, but the majority of it does. So usually they're green around the top near the stem, but like that's a pretty good. I get most of that. I'll slice most of that, and it'll work. So yesterday I went around and did the same thing, and picked a few, and then today it's sort of just it's obviously my judgment, and some have been sunburned, so that can kind of fool you into thinking they're ripe. But so far we've had really good dried persimmons. They've been, no matter, they've turned out pretty sweet, very sweet, as a matter of fact. So I don't know. There's more. The riper they are, the more sugar that they get sweeter as they get riper. So if you were to, really October and November are the 2 months you want to dry persimmons. If you were to wait until into November, leaves start falling off the tree, they get too ripe, then they get ahead of you. You can't keep up with them because that's why we start in October. So we go through a few batches that maybe aren't perfectly ripe, but then as they get riper, then you can keep up with them, because we can only do one load a day. We have 6 dehydrators. We run that, fill them up, and run that once a day. So you don't want all your trees ripening up at once and being soft, and then you can't use them. So we start in October and work our way, probably in November, first week in November probably is what I'm looking at. It's been fairly warm, so that's going to ripen up a little quicker. So anyway, I make my way around the tree picking up. I just kind of look at the fruit, and again, like I say, if I have so far the dry persimmons have been very good, very sweet. So I guess whatever we've been doing is working. There are some a problem with persimmons is sometimes you run into seeds. So when you slice it, you'll hit a seed. You got to pull the seed out, and it slows down the process. There's also some other things that might be wrong with it, but for the most part, yesterday the batch went really well. Most of the persimmons I sliced tended to be, they didn't have any problems. I had a few seeds, but they sliced and they can go really quick, and it's a nice process. But you hit seeds, it's frustrating, because you have to slow down, you have to take seed out, and it slows you down. And not that it has to be real fast, but you don't want to take all day. Normally it takes me a couple hours to do all this to get a load in, and then it takes 8 hours to dry them. I don't have to be a part of that process. I just turn the machines on, and then they run for 4 hours. And I shuffle the trays. I put the top trays on the bottom on the top, so they dry all the way around. And then they dry for 4 more hours. And then they've been pretty, after 8 hours, they've been done. If they're really ripe, riper and a little softer, then it takes a little longer to dry them. So about daily, you can do about 1 batch a day. I could do 2 if I wanted to wake up in the middle of the night to turn the trays, but I haven't been doing that, and I don't really need to. Have been ripening about, I don't have enough really for 2 loads every day anyway, so it works out pretty well. pretty much have to do a load a day, otherwise you kind of get behind. So ideally, you know, I wouldn't be having to, I could just pick every persimmon. And later in the season, I could probably do that. But then again, I'm going to run into a lot of soft persimmons, and I don't want to do that. So I have to pick and choose. And most of them have a little green on the top. But like I said, one more time, the batches we've been making have been very sweet. That's what you want. And they've been good. So if they're good, then I'll just keep picking them this way. About 16 trees, we're still doing 16 trees, and it's surprising how this is the year. This is 5 years. These trees have been here, been growing for 5 years, and last year it had really big fruit, not as many, and had some trouble with limbs breaking. And this year seems to be the first year where each tree has a lot of fruit on it. Pretty equally distributed, and they're pretty much turning into good persimmon trees. And then next year should even be better. The limbs can hold more, because I've had some problem with breaking limbs. And I put some, as you can see here, I put some 2x4s to brace the limbs up. I put rope on some of the branches, but you just have to do that no matter what. Now there's a big tree over there. It's probably, who knows, it's probably 50 years old, and I don't do anything to it, and a few branches might break, but I don't worry about it being destroyed. Where these little ones, if a main branch breaks off, and it's not going to grow back, and then you got to, you know, you miss, and you're missing a main limb on the tree. So I try to be careful with these limbs. And as you can see, I mean, the fruit doesn't care. It grows. That's the big fruit right there on a small branch. Now, branch is hanging in there pretty well, but so the other day I was picking, and I got done picking. I didn't see any problems with any of the limbs. I looked back about an hour later, and a limb was on the ground. It had too many, it just was waiting to break, and I couldn't tell that. So you don't know when it's gonna happen, and hope it doesn't happen. So as you can see, I'm not picking lots of fruit here, because there's lots that haven't turned more. We haven't ripened in the last 24 hours, so I don't know. Hopefully I try to get 2 buckets full. If I get 2 buckets full, that pretty much will give me, usually not every tray, but it'll fill most of the trays up pretty well. If I don't throw too many away, or don't have any that have seeds in them, or I don't waste a lot of the persimmons, and I can usually, like yesterday went pretty well. I filled 5 dehydrators with 2 buckets, and I had a few left over. That batch went pretty well. Pretty happy with that, because you know, it's not hard work. It just takes a lot of time. See, and sometimes I'll pick some just to get a load. I'll pick some that aren't quite perfect, and some are small. You like them bigger. They fill the tray better. The diameter of each slice will fill the tray better. So these little ones take more, and it's not as good. But they're not going to get bigger. Once they turn orange, that's the size they're going to be, and you got to live with it. So